Okay, today's knife is the Duluth Trading Daily Carry Knife, or Duluth Daily Carry Knife in 440C. A very smooth cut there. Our empty spot for material, and some cardboard, and various other materials to process. We'll get started at 8 o'clock, see how much material we can process before needing to touch this blade up or resharpen it so that it cuts paper. Just a reminder that even though it stops cutting paper, it is still capable of processing cardboard and other materials. So far, this is a cardboard beast. The handle is not too heavy. It has some weight, but I would like to see this, it's just wishful thinking, in like a G10 or FRN scale even. This is not sharp, but it's very noticeable. It fits my fingers fine though, but I can see that it may be an issue for some people. So we just keep going. That is a nice pile of cardboard so far. And still cuts paper. Oops. Still cuts paper. I just found out there's a 511 tactical store in my neighborhood, but I'm not going to go till Sunday. Oh, hi. How are you doing? I don't see a section for knives, though. I know they sell knives. Or I know they have a brand of knives, but we'll have to find out. I swear I don't do this on purpose. All better. So it's 12 o'clock noon, which means it's time to switch the focus from cardboard and paper and paperboard to rope, twine, wood, bicycle inner tubes and such. But before we do that, let us go ahead and do a paper cut test and show how much material we were able to process besides my skin. So it's quite a bit. I'm actually pretty impressed, and it was pretty fun to feel it cutting through the material, and it handled some of that harder cardboard pretty good. This is a 440C steel. 440C steel. Here's the paper cut test. So we are still, oops. We are still cutting paper. If I can get the right angle. I got some glue on it. Let me try this again. Make sure there's no glue. Okay, yeah, a little bit on one side near the edge. Try this again here. As I make a wreck of everything. Okay. So it's cutting paper. Yeah, see there's some glue right there. There we go. There we go. I'm going to count that as it's cutting paper. So, yeah, it's cutting paper. So, let me go ahead and eat my lunch and we'll get back to this, focusing on other materials. Okay, so I think it's time to touch up this edge. First of all, let me start with, we did cut a lot of material already, including jute rope and bicycle inner tube. So I feel like as far as paper material, this knife has already done a little more than usual. But I want to go ahead and, yeah, so it's going to need to be touched up on the sharpener for sure. So what I do is I just take a ceramic sharpener and I do 20 passes through it, usually 10, and then I flip the sharpener around and do 10. Push or pull, doesn't matter. So yeah, I can feel the ceramic biting onto the blade, so that tells me the blade has some I don't know what the word is, not maybe rolls, but so I won't bore you with doing it all on video. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another 10 or 20. Okay, so that started to run through a little smoother, so that tells me it probably did a better job. Let me go ahead and grab some paper. So part of that is the paper that I was using. I was using notebook paper. This paper is a little bit thicker, so I'm going to have to see what I'm going to do as far as a control paper to use consistently as far as checking the edge. But I'm going to say that this is back to cutting paper sharp. I would love it if the notebook paper part of it, well, I mean, as you can see, it cuts. But the other paper, the one I originally used, it was cutting. So I'm going to say this has been retouched twice. And we're still going. Okay, I did it a third time, just because it was bugging me. This is a thinner paper, though. See, it's tearing just when I hit the angle wrong. So I'm not going to use this as my test paper. But technically that was 3 times. I mean, it was improved. I could feel it was going through the sharpener better. So yeah, so this paper is thicker than notebook paper but thinner than copy paper. So I may just buy a stack of copy paper and use as my testing control, because I'm not sure I can find this thickness of paper easily. This was just something that was in the recycle bin. But this is after 3 times, so 20, 40, 60 times through the ceramics, which it probably could have done it in less, but I was testing it on notebook paper. But I'm not going to change the stats on it. This knife, though, it just feels like it's doing a good job. And with the amount of cardboard and paperboard that I've already processed, yeah, so no blade play, and it still isn't flickable. It feels like it's getting better, though. Actually, you didn't see it on camera. That's the first time I was able to flick it. So there you go. That's the second time I was able to flick it. Yeah, third. So it looks like it is breaking in. No oil. And these are bronze washers. So it feels a little rough on the clothes still. Like I can feel some resistance. But not horrible. So yeah, I'll probably use copy paper as my control paper going forward. Okay, so a couple things here. I got a ton of material. This is probably the most I've done doing these EDC testing with a knife. And I do know that before I sharpened this blade, what is that, 3 times now, realizing that the control paper wasn't the same as what I usually used. So it probably did not need 3 sharpens. If anything, it needed 1, but that's just a learning experience. As far as the edge, using the original testing paper, yeah, it cuts. So this is after, oops, this is after the additional sharpening, but also a boatload of additional material, including jute rope and wood. So it's doing really well, in my opinion. Sorry, I'm not a good multitasker. A couple things I do want to point out. It has no blade play still, but I am able to relatively drop shut it and flick it open with ease now, so it's breaking in. I noticed, though, this clip, there's like a piece of metal that is like they didn't trim it when they did the clip. And I have a buck that has the same thing going on with their clip. It doesn't happen often, if at all. This is the second one I've ever seen. But as you can see, it makes it to where you can't use the clip above the basically the screw. Not a huge deal. But anyway, it's a $25 knife. Keep that in mind too. But still, yeah. Even though this clip is kind of flimsy, I mean, I don't know how it'll do long term. I've never had one usually that loose or flimsy. But everything else, including the, oops, I spoke too soon, including the coating, is holding up really well. Still centered and locking up, and like I said, no up or down or left or right blade play. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick. I think that's probably it then. But anyway, yeah. So I still have an hour and 30 minutes to process more material. But yeah. So this is doing really well, considering everything involved. Okay, so we are going to book out of here at 4:30, which means at 4 o'clock I'll give my final thoughts and we'll finish the final cuts. So just to give you an update, just more material. This is probably the most material I've done, partially because I want to get rid of some of this stockpile that I have of cardboard. So grab my paper here. Maybe I'll have time to squeeze in some final thoughts. So yeah, it still cuts paper. Oops, if I can get the right angle. So yeah, it still cuts paper. I speak too soon. Okay, that's the final cut. It still cuts paper. I've already addressed a couple things, so I'm not going to rehash them. The clip is not uncomfortable in hand, so I can feel it, but well, that developed, but it's not uncomfortable, so it is getting easier to close and open one-handed. And centering is still there, lockup is still there, no blade play, coating looks great on the blade for 40C. So yeah, everything's improving on that point. I'm not going to even worry about that clip, as I'm realistically not going to carry this outside of the desk. I mean, if I were, I might take the clip off or try to knock that piece of metal off. Looks like I might have to take the clip off, but it's really not worth my time right now. Still centered. Yep, flicks and drops a lot better now. So 3 times sharpened, but realistically probably just once. And that's considering, like I said before, all the material that I processed. We're talking jute rope and these rubber, do I have any here? No, inner tubes. So I could feel the difference when I was cutting those inner tubes, and after I sharpened it, they went through a lot better. But we're still going to stick with the number 3. So that was my fault for the paper. I'm rambling, aren't I? Okay, we are going to call it a day on the knife. A little early, 30 minutes early, 24 minutes early. So it still cuts paper. You can tell, though, it is starting to dull. It's got some dull spots. But even with the sharpening, this is just paper. It still, even at this, is processing cardboard great. And I probably would cut more cardboard than paper, to be honest with you, with an everyday knife. So tape, cardboard. The paper is just an edge tester. So I'm not going to touch it up again because it's hit or miss, I guess, depending on where I'm hitting on the blade. But overall, it's going to do a great job. Plus, we've already subjected this to some erroneous calculations on my part. So in a nutshell, I'm going to say this would be a great everyday carry for the price especially. Given everything that I've talked about in the video. Of course, it's not a scientific test and it's just my opinion, but I have processed so much paper. If there's any problems that might occur, it would be with the clip, I think. I feel like it would get bent if it got snagged. But as a knife, I think the steel is fine, considering, like I said, all the work it's done and the paper cut test error. So I'll have to pick up some copy paper so we have a standard. I wrote some notes real quick. Oh yeah, so I added plastic packaging, acrylic yarn, and foam to the cut test on the second half of the cut test. And it does have some really non-aggressive jimping right here. Not that I ever really feel like I need jimping, but it's, you can feel it, but it's totally not aggressive. But it's nice to have right there. And very nice pointy, stabby, especially with cardboard. It's not too heavy. One day I'll get my scale, and I have a new scale, by the way, too. I haven't used my scale, like, literally at all. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on the Duluth Daily Carry Knife. I like it. I really like that it's breaking in. So, I'm not a typical, I don't typically fidget with my knives, but when I saw that Access style lock, the lock bar, I was like, oh yeah, it's got to flip and drop, and it initially did not, but now it's getting there. So, 25 bucks, Duluth Trading Company. Salisbury steak ramen.
It's like there was just no magic between you two.
So I picked up some packing tape at Walmart. I'm gonna stick some of this on some cardboard and cardstock to simulate, you know, packing tape.